2025 in WWE has really been centered around Seth Rollins. We're going to go through the timeline here from WrestleMania 41 to today, with Seth Rollins being out and injured. How did this story go, despite it being cut short? All of this started at WrestleMania 41. Main event, night one, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman in the corner of CM Punk. The Favor was involved. All of the build-up, the lead-up to Mania, they had some moments where felt like they were spinning their wheels a little bit trying to get to this main event, but things really picked up in the last final weeks from what I remember watching this whole thing. And then Mania 41, you did get the nice big swerve. You had Paul Heyman turn his back on CM Punk. You had Paul Heyman turn his back on Roman Reigns. And he aligns with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins getting the victory at WrestleMania. So the next night on Raw, you get Braun Breaker showing up, and he aligns with Seth Rollins. They take out CM Punk and Roman Reigns. The vision starts taking shape. Now, the WrestleMania main event, I think that this was one of the best matches of the show, and from just memory itself, and my memory is quite shot these days, I really did enjoy that main event. Much more than night two main event, let's be honest. We don't need...
Yeah, that night one main event between Seth, Roman, and Punk really saved the entire night. Because let's be real, night one was, you think about it, it was, this entire WrestleMania was mid. I would not go back and watch it. But that night one, it was just so mid, bro. I tell you. That main event saved the show. If it wasn't for that main event, God, this would have been one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. I'm just saying.
Visit that. But that was a great main event. And it kick-started something new and fresh and unique, different Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman alliance, something we haven't seen, and it really had me intrigued of, wow, what directions could they take with all of this? And we'll soon find out that they did certain things that were great and certain things that were just rinse and repeat. We're focusing more too on the PLEs, and including Saturday night's main event, because that's where all the big kind of story beats do really happen. In May, we had Saturday night's main event, and you had a tag team match. You had Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins tagging up against Sami Zayn and CM Punk. That feels like a lifetime ago. Sami Zayn has then gone to SmackDown. He's become United States Champion. He's the last United States Championship. That happened for Sami Zayn. But you did have the reveal of Bronson Reed aligning with Braun Breaker and Seth. And the vision you started to really form and take shape. Bronson Reed was taking out Sami Zayn and Punk during this. And the interesting part of this alliance was the fact that Bronson Reed and Seth had a feud earlier in the previous year in 2024, and you had Bronson Reed just demolishing Seth Rollins. So it was unique in that you had a guy like Reed making his return after injury from War Games the prior year, and he's put into this spot. I thought it was great. I didn't love the whole reasoning behind it because it felt a little clunky in that you have Bronson Reed and Seth who were fighting each other, but then all of a sudden they're okay because kind of just out of respect for each other. So the reveal of Bronson Reed, good. It helped elevate, I think, that match and the moment at Saturday night's main event because now you had much more of a full faction to work with. Now this is when also you started to feel like Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were becoming Seth's henchmen. They'd come out in the black suits and they're behind Seth. Seth doesn't have the world championship yet. It felt like J&J security a little bit. And it's interesting too, as you look at the evolution, so to speak, of the Vision, the faction, and how they evolved the characters. It is interesting that in a short period of time, in less than a year, how each one of these characters did evolve. Breaker was coming from the Intercontinental title and the IC division, moving up into almost the world title scene, dog barking and figuring out kind of his role, and really the spear and all of that becoming kind of like the focal point centerpiece for his character. Like he just is chaos and he's fast and he destroys everything. And Bronson Reed coming back and going from this kind of henchman role with Seth to evolving into the Shula Fala and the tribal thief character, and kind of branching out, which was kind of cool. Now, I know there's stuff that happens in Raw and SmackDown in between all of these PLEs, and you have moments as things progressed on Raw every single week, but let's be honest, a lot of the time it was Tsunami, Spear, Vision beatdown, Vision promo, and we'll talk about a little bit more about
exactly what I was talking about.
Go along in the timeline here. So I'm just throwing that in there that we did get a lot of that. Don't worry, I don't forget about that. So the next thing, we had Money in the Bank. Now this Money in the Bank ladder match, it was pretty clear that Seth was going to win. You did have the likes of Jacob Fatu in the match and LA Knight that really stood out. No one else really felt like they had a clear shot of winning Money in the Bank other than Seth. He was the main story. The Money in the Bank ladder match itself was good. I like the moments between Solo and Jacob, and you did have the potential of LA Knight winning Money in the Bank. It was kind of a long shot, but it was our only hope. And he didn't win. Seth Rollins wins Money in the Bank. Keep putting more emphasis on Seth at this point. So then we fast track and go to Night of Champions. The big match.
I thought LA Knight should have won the match. Clearly he didn't. So it is what it is. I rest my case. LA Knight should have won it. So yeah.
Champions was John Cena, CM Punk, WWE Championship. This match and feud built into like just a matter of weeks. And remember, we're also dealing with heel Cena, which in retro, it feels like a lifetime ago that happened. You had Punkonomics, these two going back, the pipe bomb from John Cena to CM Punk. But in there, you did have a moment where Seth Rollins was teasing the cash-ins. And I really liked this part because you had Seth come out on Raw, I believe, where Cena and Punk are in the ring together, but Seth is teasing that he would cash in on John Cena. Was he going to go for the world title? Was he going to go for the WWE Championship? With a heel Cena as champion, would that end the reign early? So a lot of question marks in there, but I like that Seth was coming out with the Vision and teasing the big cash-in moments. Seth does interfere with the Vision. It ends in a big wonky finish. I had to go back and rewatch this because I was like, oh, hey, in my head now, I was like, Cena's a good guy. Like, no. In this match, Cena was still a bad guy. So I had to rewatch and make sure that I got all the facts straight. Because Seth comes in, and towards the end of that interference piece, you did have a stomp from Seth to Punk, and Cena slid in, and that's where I was like, why is Cena doing the cheap stuff? Oh yeah, it's because he's a bad guy. And then Cena retains the WWE Championship. Seth kind of gets screwed, but he was trying to stop CM Punk from becoming champion. Seth's whole MO throughout all of this with the Vision has largely been, I'm going to stop CM Punk by any means necessary. Prior to WrestleMania, you have the Netflix debut episode, Raw, where you have Seth versus Punk. The whole feud has been going on so long since Punk returned to WWE at Survivor Series. And so this whole story arc for Seth, even with Money in the Bank to this point, really about making sure Punk doesn't get the belt. I thought the Night of Champions match, I mean, it's just a cash-in tease thing. I think it was cool that you did have Seth teasing the cash-in, but you're getting a lot of the same cast of characters getting involved in there, like Sami Zayn's getting involved, trying to even the odds against the Braun brothers. But at that point, I like that Seth was mixing it up with Cena and the WWE Championship, so he didn't know which way it was going to go. The next move, Saturday night's main event, Goldberg's retirement. Remember that? Against Gunther. Cut his whole retirement speech short at the end. But one of the matches was Seth Rollins versus LA Knight. Yeah. So LA Knight is getting week after week, he's still involved with this, and to this day, we're still dealing with this. Same cast of characters, ladies and gentlemen. This Saturday night's main event, these two guys go one-on-one, and in the match is where you have the injury of Seth Rollins. Seth does a flip, looks like he lands on his leg and his knee awkwardly, goes into the corner, falls down, and acts like he is totally injured because it's revealed later he was faking the whole thing, and they wrote him off TV. What's interesting about that match and that moment, in retrospect, Seth's faking the injury for storyline. He did a wonderful job because nobody knew. We would hypothesize here, which I love doing, and we would talk about, is he really injured? What this means? If he's not injured, what does that mean? And all the conversation was around, is he legitimately injured or not, and the implications of that. The talk and chatter you were having during the match, LA Knight and Seth and the referee, it looked like in the match that Seth was communicating to the ref, like, go for the pin, like, let's end this match, let's go home. And LA Knight not knowing what was going on. This is a piece I just have a question. I have a question legitimately for LA Knight and for WWE. Was LA Knight in on it? Did LA Knight know that Seth was faking the injury for storyline? Or did they go with it to protect Seth and the story? So Seth playing along with it was such a great thing to do, that he would go and talk about how he's going to get checked out, his knee is too swollen, they can't see what's going on, and then we get to SummerSlam. Now in between that, we do have to talk about every single week on Raw. Seth was off TV because of this, quote, injury that he was being taken out, and you did have Braun and Bronson staying around on TV every single week with Paul Heyman. And between this period, SummerSlam and post-SummerSlam, this is when it really started to feel like WWE hit their big lull with this entire story arc. What I mean is the repetitive Braun Bronson beatdown DQs, ending Monday Night Raw, and then we get to SummerSlam. Punk, Gunther, they have their SummerSlam match for the World Heavyweight Championship. CM Punk wins the world title, and in that moment, when Punk holds up the belt, Seth Rollins' music hits, he comes out in crutches, throws them away, and cashes in on Punk, taking the belt away from Punk, denying him of the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, going back to the whole story and theme of this entire feud is to stop CM Punk by any means necessary, and Seth Rollins is your new World Heavyweight Champion. He swerved everybody. I really did enjoy this moment at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Was there a chance it was going to happen? Totally. But it's the unpredictability. It's not knowing. It's the fun of it. And I did really enjoy this moment at SummerSlam. I thought the Gunther Punk match also on its own was really good. And Punk's face is just priceless in a great way. The exhaustion that Punk shows holding up that belt when Seth's music hits, it just hits you because you just like, you feel for the guy. He went through this grueling match with Gunther and he has to hear his music and he knows what's about to happen. I loved that. So the Vision is now totally strong and just built right back up. But again, this is post SummerSlam. This is where we start to see a lot of the issues creatively of where they were going.
Yep.
This is when I, as a viewer, as your wrestling analyst of sorts on the internet, gobbing and gooing out of my mouth hole every day, talking about this is when so many fans and people online would really start to notice things were dipping. Same rotation of characters in the main events of Raw, and it was just insert wrestler ABC. It was getting to the point where you would have Jay, LA Knight, CM Punk, Jimmy, rotate them around, whoever is in that main event, and then you'd have Vision come down. Or you would have Vision in the ring, Braun and Bronson, and they'd beat up LA Knight, CM Punk, Jay's music would hit, Uso. Jay Uso runs down and does his little shimmy run down like he's ducking like no one could see him, and he'd run into the ring and even the odds against Braun and Bronson. Insert any which way you wanted to do it. Punk would do it, LA Knight would do it and do the beat down, Braun and Bronson would beat down, come down from the ring. It was the same thing every single week, not to mention the beginning of Raw was almost always promos from the Vision. 15-minute long promos, not to mention the introductions of Raw. You'd have 6 to 8 minutes of nothing, followed by waiting for Seth to talk, do a generic Vision promo, how they run Raw, the end. Now, I'd love to know right here, before we continue on, we got Clash in Paris. Did you feel this? Did you feel that this was the big issue around this period with this whole faction and what they were doing? Or did you hate all of it from the get-go? So Clash in Paris, we get the Fatal 4-Way. LA Knight, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Jey Uso for the world title. This is when I felt it was peak Vision Seth repetitive storytelling. So all these guys in the ring, and Seth Rollins retains the world title, but this is where Becky Lynch gets involved. She low blows CM Punk, and Seth retains the title, and now you've introduced Becky, the IC champion, into this whole story, aligning with her husband and the Vision, and it added a new wrinkle, a new element. I enjoyed this ending. I enjoyed this finish. I didn't think at the time that Seth had any chance of losing the belt. It didn't make much sense, but I think a lot of fans were groaning at this point that things felt exactly the same old, and you added an interesting new element in Becky coming in here. So I did like this shakeup, and then it obviously led to what was happening next. Now, but this is where they started to really divide things. You had now Seth and Becky prominently featured together as the bad guy duo against AJ Lee and Punk. So we get a couple of weeks of promos and the beatdowns, AJ Lee's return, Becky and Punk going face to face, and Becky slapping Punk and beating him up. All that stuff was entertaining. This build to WrestlePalooza, I did enjoy. Yeah. Obviously, the return of AJ Lee was something that a lot of fans really liked, but I liked the dynamics of Becky slapping and beating up Punk every week and Punk not able to do anything. And I really did enjoy Seth and Becky's dynamic on the microphone because Punk and AJ Lee were like, these two are just ridiculous. So I did really like how they built this thing up. But the issue I had in there was Braun and Bronson were totally separated. You wouldn't, if you watch Raw every week during that period, I don't think you really know that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Heyman were aligned with Becky and Seth. So we get the big WrestlePalooza match, right? You got the mixed tag match. Triple H is building WrestlePalooza as the next coming of SummerSlam, and it was going to come all over everybody. That's disgusting and nasty, that's what she said. But it was going to be this big grand show that got a big old grade of C from ESPN themselves, which was hilarious. This was the day.
Yeah, which was because that this show was mid. Palooza, that was a mid show at best. Um, but so far, everything he's saying is, he's right. The repetitive stuff and the same cast of characters. Yeah.
PLE on the ESPN new app platform that they were doing, and it didn't go over great. Now, the mixed tag team match, a lot of fun. A lot of just duo spots in there, a very long match, but it was fun. And you had the good guys win. AJ Lee and Punk beat Seth and Becky, which was fine, but you assume that this was obviously going to set up more story, like AJ Lee and Becky going one-on-one perhaps, and they didn't do that. Because after WrestlePalooza, they had to pivot because they got a crown jewel. They have so many freaking PLEs and shows. It's like every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, we have another show. We have another show.
That's what I've been talking about.
We end Palooza and we have to move on. And now we have to move on to Crown Jewel, where you have Cody Rhodes going against Seth Rollins, champion versus...
Yeah, and I thought after that, AJ Lee and Becky was going to feud over the IC title, but, we haven't seen AJ Lee on TV in, I want to say a month. I want to say it's been a month since we last seen her. We're finna be in November. So yeah, I guess they did drop it, and this is why you're seeing Becky Lynch and Matt Cena feuding for the IC title. So yeah, and then another thing too, these PLEs every 2-3 weeks, it does not help. It really doesn't. I'm glad we don't have another one until Thanksgiving weekend with Survivor Series. I really am. So yeah.
Champion for Mega Ultra Championship of the Crown Jewel Championship and the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and they were battling out for that, and they had a very good match. Now, the build between Seth and Cody, I thought was pretty good, considering it's for just who is better wrestler and getting this one-night championship that they'll never wear and never use.
Yeah.
I like the story they told because there is so much history of Cody and Seth together that it really did work. But then you have the big moment, and Seth goes to the top rope, which he doesn't always do, and he does a coast-to-coast headbutt, which I don't think he's ever done before, to Cody Rhodes, and he lands on his shoulder, and he's now out with injury. Immediately when Seth landed on his shoulder, you could see that he was favoring it, and yeah, it did not look good. However, Seth Rollins ultimately did win. He beat Cody Rhodes in the ring, which was great because I noticed that they were trying to position it higher and higher on the card, and giving Seth these wins, I think was the right move to do in retrospect. You wanted to keep that strong and keep that winning streak going for Seth. He lost here and there, yes, but the belt was getting elevated. And so once he went up against Cody and won, I think that was the right move to do because Cody could eat it wasn't for his title, and Cody could eat the loss, and it really doesn't affect Cody Rhodes. Unfortunately, all the news came out that Seth Rollins was injured after this match. So on Raw, you have a couple of key moments here before the big turn of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Seth's promo at the beginning of Raw really was highlighting him, his selfishness, his ego. He beat Cody. He is Ultra Champion, double champion, got the ring. Seth is over the moon and making statements and claims in the promo of he didn't need the Vision. He doesn't need them. They don't need him. This separation of like, these guys are off on their own and I'm on my own and I can do it all myself. Watching that episode of Raw, I thought really was doing a good job of highlighting Seth's character's ego and how he feels he doesn't even need these guys that he's brought in. So it's dismissing them. And then you have the facial reactions, everything of Braun Breaker during all of that. It started to leave some clues even during that episode of Raw. You also had a backstage moment between all of them and Seth doing it again. Now, before this, and even at like Crown Jewel, you were having Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman backstage saying, we're not going to help out Seth. What happens if he loses and doesn't win against Cody? They said they know what's going to happen. You know what to do. They were planting seeds. Again, in retrospect, you could see that they were planting some seeds along the way. Little things of like there could be deception there eventually. And I think that if the story did continue all the way to WrestleMania 42, and then even after that, and then we've got the breakup, then I think we would have seen even more of this. But they had to fast track it. So the end of Monday Night Raw, you got the Vision standing tall. It ends in the normal way of Raw seems to end. But then all of a sudden, Braun Breaker hits the spear on Seth Rollins, turning his back. Huge, huge pop. Didn't expect it, came out of nowhere. They did it so well because they did it at the end with the credits rolling. Yeah. It's like Triple H's little secret trademark move that he does in production. Because we had that when like they had War Games and CM Punk returned. They rolled credits at the end and they did the wide shot and then Punk's music hit. Here, you had the credits rolling on screen, and Braun Breaker hits Seth, turns his back, tsunami onto Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman raises their hands and stands tall. The following week on Raw, Adam Pearce announces that Seth Rollins is injured, he's on the shelf, they have to vacate the World Heavyweight Championship. They played into it that he was injured from Crown Jewel against Cody, but all of this Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed stuff, this is what exacerbated the injuries, forcing Seth to vacate the belt, and he's injured. So then we get Punk is number one contender through all of this. Jey Uso wins Battle Royal and gets one of the more disliked results online that people have seen in quite some time. So it's Jey Uso, CM Punk, Saturday night's main event for the vacated world title. Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman are on their own doing their thing, and Seth has gone to presumably WrestleMania or even after WrestleMania with the injury. One thing I felt was missing throughout all of this, from the beginning, the inception of this at WrestleMania 41, the Bronsons coming in, I felt like they were missing the backstage stuff that we saw so heavily during the Bloodline era. That's one thing that I think they did not do well with all of this. I needed to see more dynamics between Seth, Braun, and Bronson. And then I wonder, what would have happened if Seth didn't get injured? Was the group going to get bigger? How is Becky going to play into all of it now that she has to pivot and go completely separate again, doing her own thing? She's confronted Paul Heyman backstage, so they've cleared the air with that. And Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed don't know just yet what they're going to do. I think that overall, they had some good moments. Peaks and valleys, but some stuff really didn't work, and they spun their wheels, if what felt like for several months, in between the big story beats. But comment below. Let me know your thoughts on Seth Rollins, the vision, the story, all of this, and where they could go for WrestleMania. Click this video right here, though, if you want to talk more WWE topics. Have a great day. See ya.
All right. Okay. That's it. I think this whole Vision group, like I said, bro, like, it just did not work. It just was a failure, man. You know how you think about it, you know, just, and now and then it's even worse that he's injured, so the group is just completely, you want to say, I mean, it's completely dead, if you think about it. Since he's out injured, and you wonder like if he was still on television, if he wasn't injured, you know, would they have did that ankle on the Monday Night Raw out the Crown Jewel? Because I'm thinking to myself, bro, you turn on Seth Rollins, you got War Games in a month. I'm like, so now we know he won't be available for a while. They said he could be out for like 6 months, so that could take him up past WrestleMania. So that would be fucked up. But man, so they're gonna do CM Punk and Jey Uso for the vacant championship on Saturday. I think CM Punk should win that match. CM Punk should win. That's an easy layup, honestly, in my opinion, that he should win this. Putting the title back on Jey Uso really doesn't do anything for you. You know, now I know he's over with the crowd. You know, he sells the merch and all that stuff. But, I mean, if you put the title back on Jey Uso, it's going to be another lackluster title run. You feel me? Like it was the first time. Like, I knew his title run was going to be lackluster as soon, like, even before he won it. So, yeah. I think what's next for Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, they could go after the tag team titles, because isn't AJ Styles, excuse me, and Dragon Lee, yeah, aren't they the tag team champions? Yeah, they should go after them. Like, get away from LA Knight, get away from Jey Uso, get away from Jimmy, get away from Roman, get away from these guys. Get away from these guys. Because I'm honestly tired of it. Because, you know, LA Knight, he was stuck in the Bloodline vortex on SmackDown. Now he comes to Monday Night Raw, and he's stuck in the Vision vortex. And I don't think this man will ever become a world champion. I'm just saying the facts. So yeah, Sami Zayn, same thing. Find the Bloodline. Find the Vision. It's the same thing. It's like these wrestlers on one brand, you get stuck in this vortex. If you're on SmackDown and you're a top guy, oh, best believe you're gonna be steady finding Jason Mateo, the Guerrillas of Destiny. You're gonna be finding niggas every week. Same thing on Monday Night Raw. You a top player for real? or finna be up there, you finna be fighting Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, and Bronson Reed damn near every week. You gonna be stuck in that vortex. For real though. But hey man, let me know what you guys think. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.